In this video we're going to talk about selling a watch on Chrono24, a recent experience by myself, selling my precious JLC Master Ultra Thin Moon. Yes, finally sold it, and I'd like to take you through the sort of sales process and some of the pitfalls that I encountered, and I have to say it didn't go to plan. I'm Andy and welcome to the English Watch. So followers of this channel will know that earlier in the year I listed both my Grand Seiko Quartz GMT and my JLC Ultra Thin Moon. Now the Grand Seiko sold on eBay, zero fees, pretty smoothly, and within a couple of weeks of listing. Yeah, it was listed at the right price, went for the right price, I was happy, the buyer was happy, and using eBay's authentication process was pretty slick, and I got paid out pretty fast. When it came to the JLC, now this is a watch I'd owned for about 3 years. I originally bought it for my 25th wedding anniversary. Yeah, I bought it for myself. Hey, what do you do? Now, it didn't come into this world cleanly. It had a bit of a difficult start. And if you look back through my back catalogue and have a look at the experience I had with watches of Switzerland, well, that's all in the past. Now, I love the watch. When I bought it for all the right reasons. I kicked all the tyres. I tried on lots of different watches. I really fell in love with it. But at the end of the day, it was an asset that I held. There were things that I wanted to do with the money. I wasn't wearing it enough. And if I'm honest, the experience of buying it and owning it, where maybe I'd been a bit selfish in the original purchase, and since have had a wonderful experience with my wife. We both bought Cartier watches. And I think that's more of a celebration of that union, if you want to call it that, than me just going out and buying myself a watch just because it was 25 years in. So listed it on, again, Chrono24 and eBay at the same time. I think this was back in April or something like that. It's quite early in the year. Now, at the time, and again, these are lessons that I'm hoping that you either know and you're going to tell me, why did you do that? Or that you're just thinking, I want to list a watch. What are the pitfalls? Well, there was two main ones that I made. The first one is I mistakenly listed it as unworn. Genuine mistake. And I think the buyer who bought it literally last week did say, yes, he recognised that as a mistake because in the description it said it had been worn. But the main one, the one that sort of delayed the process, was the fact that I put on there that the case was unmarked. Now, you do hear a lot of stories and you read on forums where someone will go into a dealer and say, there's a mark on my watch either from new or from servicing or whatever, and they'll go like that and say, well, if I can't see it from 2 feet or arm's length or whatever, it doesn't exist. And you'd argue that that's the case because how far do you magnify before you say there's a defect? Nothing's flawless. These are highly precise bits of kit, but ultimately marks are going to be left either through lightly worn or who knows, just through general handling. Now, to the best of my knowledge, without putting it under fine microscope, it was, to all intents and purposes, unmarked. Now, along the way, it'd been listed for months and months and months. I may have worn it a couple of times in that time, but not to the extent where I was bashing it about, because I don't do that to my watches anyway. And I'd had a few offers throughout the process, some really sort of lowball offers, and you've got to sort of ignore those. And one chap that actually decided to buy it for a good price, but then didn't complete the purchase. That was a nightmare trying to unwind. So anyway, got it listed again. And then it must have been, again, weeks and weeks later, got contacted by a chap about the watch. He said he was dead interested in it. We had a bit of a exchange in the Chrono24 message system, which I'd encourage anyone, if you're going to do that, stay within that system, protect you and the buyer. And it turned out that he'd seen my video about my watch, and that's one of the things that drew him to it. So I thought, yeah, so that's my watch, the English watch. Not that that should put me in any advantage whatsoever, because ultimately he wants to make a transaction. He wants to make sure he's spending his money wisely. So anyway, we agreed a price that I was happy with, that he was happy with, that wasn't much less than what I'd listed it for. So I was actually quite chuffed. And we started the process. So once he'd paid into the Chrono24 escrow system, so they'd retained his money. Now, he'd also paid for their authentication process, which I think was about £250. So I would then post the watch to Chrono24. Because he'd paid for this process, they paid for all the insurance, so I didn't have to buy any extra insurance, which is good. And then they would inspect the watch. And then sure enough, they say they would look at it within 1 to 2 days, and it must have taken them the best part of a week to come back to me. To say, oh yeah, your listing deviates from the watch that we've inspected, and we've sent you some photographs. Now I'll put these up, and it said there are marks on the case. I mean, if whatever microscope they used, they could see electrons floating around the nucleus of atoms. I mean, it was that finely magnified. And I'm thinking, Christ, my eyes aren't good enough for that, and I think in some of them I'd struggle to see them with a loupe. But nonetheless, there were marks on the case. I mean, this is a case that with the crystal and the case back is only 9mm thick. And when you look at these zoomed in images, you think, blimey, it's like the Grand Canyon. Anyway, so the buyer was contacted. I had a bit of an exchange with them. He's like, well, the price was because I thought the case was marked. I said, yeah, fair enough, my mistake. And I agreed, and he was respectfully agreed as well that knocking off the $250 that he'd paid for the authentication process was okay. So we shook hands on that. Now what happened is Chrono24 don't really have a process for if a transaction doesn't really work. They say, well, we'll leave it up to you guys to work out, the best way of resolving this. I'm thinking, well, okay. So I had a chat with him again using the online system. Agreed to $250, and then we were like, well, how do we do this? So we went backwards and forth, and we agreed against ourselves, with the absence of anything from Chrono24, that I would pay him directly the $250. And you think you're getting a bit of a bond with somebody, but it was still a bit of a leap of faith for me to give them $250 directly into their account, because at that point they could just withdraw from the sale and deny all knowledge, although there is the evidence of the chat. So we did that. Then contacted Chrono24 and said, look, this is what we've done, this is what we've agreed. Look at the chat, all the evidence is there. And just time went on. Didn't come back. I ended up phoning them up, and they're like, oh, that's being dealt with by my colleague. She's in America at the moment, blah, 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 blah. Anyway, the good news is the guy that bought the watch loves it, and I've got paid. So I guess what am I trying to say here? Well, in essence, when you list something on an online platform, be it eBay or Chrono, just make sure that the description is as accurate as you can make it. Be as honest as you can. And when I took loads of pictures, I mean, you can never see these scratches in the pictures, it'd be ridiculous. But just be as honest as you can. Make sure the category that you're using is the right one, i.e. new unworn or used good or whatever it is, used fair. And then always use the message system that they recommend, just to protect yourself, and use their payment system. I mean, I did get contacted by one guy who said, where are you based? Can I come and look at it? Blah, 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 and all that good stuff. And I'm thinking, for those people, so if you don't want to pay fees or go through the system, use eBay or use whatever, but I'm not going to meet you. I'm not going to do the cash thing. It's madness. So don't do that. Anyway, so I think I'm done for now selling watches. I've sold 2 this year, and I bought 1. I'm consolidating. It's consolidating as well. They said, why are you selling the watch? Well, I'm consolidating. I'm wearing today my Speedmaster on this leather rally strap, which is quite nice. Got the Cartier, so I've got integrated sports watch. That's a nice small one. Still got the IWC, got my Rolex Explorer 40. So I think I'm okay for now. And I've started to, because I've sort of drifted away from the watch scene a little bit because my interests have laid elsewhere. So I've got here a load of parts for my son's car that to say is a never-ending project is an understatement. In fact, I've just listed up on my board there how much I've spent on it recently. Now, you could argue that, I mean, I've totted up between parts, specialist servicing, etc. It's about £1,400. Now, if I could spend £1,400 on that, or £1,400 on, I don't know, you can't even buy a Longines for £1,400 these days, so like a top-end Tissot. So actually, spending it on a 20-year-old car, keeping it running, I think's not bad value. Yeah, so, but I do want to circle back because I have stopped work in London now. You'll be pleased to hear. So I'll be spending more time at home, able to do these videos. Anyway, hope you found that informative, interesting. Give it a thumbs up if you did. Thanks for continuing to subscribe. I appreciate I've been absent for a bit. But yeah, hopefully from now on we're going to start doing a few more videos. Anyway, I'm Andy. This has been the English Watch. Take care, and I'll see you soon. Bye for now.